14.
Okay, cool. Yeah. My son's about to turn 21, but he doesn't give a shit. And I mean, he's also like, what? Oh, what? Dad, Facebook's for old people. But it might actually be though. Who knows?
We are live now.
We are live talking about how millennials don't give a shit about Facebook. Yoo-hoo! That's true. Mine doesn't either. So super, super cool to have Mathew on. I'm so excited. It's been a trip, and sorry, we actually had him scheduled earlier, and I got food poisoning, so that's fun. So here we are on a reschedule. Super, super happy to have you back, and of course Craig is here with us, and that's always fun, and co-hosting with me for the show. Before we get started, definitely go to swiftfire.org and get on our newsletter. And any more announcements, Craig? We have a membership program that I keep forgetting to tell people about, and we're actually going to have Mathew on to do some private readings for people. I'm going to do a private scan. I have a teaching I'm going to do about karma. We're going to have some other surprise guests to do some destiny readings for people. So stay tuned for that. But definitely, if you're interested in grabbing the membership, it's kind of just a little more private group of people. There's going to be some extra content there that isn't out in the public, and a little bit more time to interface with people one-on-one in real life.
There's going to be some interaction with people.
Yeah,
people know how to interact and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So, and thank you, Dana, for being a new member. We're so excited to have you here, and nice to meet you. So without further ado, Craig, you want to introduce Mathew, or have Mathew introduce himself, or how are we doing this? Let's do it.
Well, the first time I saw Mathew was a grand exposure of a certain personality in the disclosure community.
That guy, yeah.
That was the first time.
We won't say.
We won't say, but and ever since then I've followed Mathew, and always a positive contrarian is what I would class you as, Mathew. You're a wonderful voice who doesn't just take things as they are, and I love your perspective on a lot of the drama that's going on, particularly in the UFO community and all that. And obviously you're very gifted yourself spiritually, and it's just a joy to have you on. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Thank you. Well, first off, thank you. And I'm shocked, and it's kind of cool that was the first intro to anything I've ever done. I love that weird little guy that we made videos about. I hope he's doing well. I mean that very, very sincerely. But wow, that was a wild introduction. That was in my momentary how will I call it? That was my villain arc of 2020. I was in like the villain character arc, working with a little bit of intelligent stuff, trying to kind of LARP my way through the disclosure false light like community. But anyway, who am I? I would say at this stage of the journey, this is always the funnest and weirdest part for me, because I'm one of those people that I did not know what I'm doing now was the thing that I had contracted or been meant to do. It's like I had no idea that this stage of my life was coming. But that said, at this stage of the human journey, I define myself as what we would call a professional psychic, a professional intuitive, and also, if you do want to call it a healer, until we get a better term within the multidimensional awakening, soul group, maybe we'll call it a healer. But really what I do on the pretty much every single day basis right now is open up energetic anatomy within the non-physical layers of people's bodies. And when we do that in measured, kind of practical, individualistic ways, it creates huge shifts. And so for me, the work can come from in any form, from doing intuitive readings, or what some people call implantation or attachment removal. But really the heart of it, I think, is we're just opening up and clearing non-physical anatomy. And so that was probably more of an answer than you asked for, but
that's wonderful. You want Sharnael's me?
Yeah, that's where I was muted. Hey, awesome. Yeah, and I know I'm trying to remember where I met you from. I choose to know, but yeah, I think just somebody referred me to you, and I actually had a really amazing session with you that helped me kind of move through quite a bit of things. And I mean, that was what, 2 years ago, maybe?
What's weird? Here's the thing. I remember, seeing a name that I remember seeing you come through, and then I remember seeing you on like YouTube a couple years later. I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, but it was during one of those periods, and I know everyone has them, or I pray that everyone gets to have this, where you are so busy that you don't even have, it's just like, what next? And I was at a stage, I think that was 2020, where it was just like overloaded with something on the earth plane. There was a lot of people in need at that stage, myself included. And so, period of high activity. But yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how long have you been in this game? I'm curious.
Okay, that's a very revealing and vulnerable question, and I both love and also cringe talking about this. But I, prior to 2015, I had lived this entire life. I was in my late 30s. I had been a professional musician for quite some time. I had transitioned into the mental health field, where I was working with homeless veterans in San Diego, California. And I was just doing my thing in my life. And I was one of those people who had kind of a very chaotic and sudden awakening journey, in which I was doing an outreach fair, just to try to get people off the streets. And some people were doing energy work. There are a lot of people who've seen me before will know this story. They'll be like, oh God, here we go again. But I was working at an outdoor fair, trying to get people into housing, getting them into treatment. It was like this homeless fair, and there was these people there, these kind of older women, and they were just set up in this little tent. And I walked by, and one of them said, would you like an energy blessing? And I remember going like, I don't know. I don't really want to go back to work. You know what? Yeah. And I can sit down right here. I could just sit there. And I was like, all right, cool. And I sat in this little chair, and I kind of closed my eyes. And this little woman came over and put her hands on top of my head, said a few little words to herself. And I did kind of lose time. It was like I kind of blinked out for a second. But when I opened my eyes, a couple minutes maybe were past. And it sounds really crazy, you guys, but from that moment, my entire life changed.
Interesting.
Wow.
I mean, there's no more accurate description other than that moment. I felt a weird feeling at the top of my head. And within 30 days of my life, I had so many things had changed in my journey that it was like, in hindsight, I realized I had a very rapid crown chakra opening. And it was like pop, like so many things took place, visitations, weird stuff. I'll go on and on about it. Watch out. But I started professionally doing this work in 2017. And that was as the result of me having one of those life transition moments. I pray a lot of other people out there have had it, where you come to the stage in your life where you literally put everything on the curb. You leave your marriage, you leave your home that you own, you leave your job that you've been at for multiple years. You literally put your belongings on the curb, and I drove away.
What?
Yeah, for real. Literally, I just bounced. I moved a couple hours up the coast. And I was one of those people that when it happened, it was like spirit stepped in, and it was literally the right decision. And so I've just been living this entire time since 2017. This weird switch turned on in my mind and my body, and boom, suddenly we're doing this. And so it's both cool and also, curious for some people, because they're like, really? How? But it's possible for a lot of us. So anyway, I'll pause there. I know that's a lot, but
I love that. That's so cool. Isn't it interesting? Like you say, you're just sort of going about your day, and then there's just this destiny moment comes along, and this lady knew she had something for you. You agreed, and that's it. It's all changed from there. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
No. I was just gonna say I had something similar happen, but the way I saw it or imagined it, like I was sleeping on a couch in the living room, and I kind of was just, I don't know if I was in that in between. I don't know if the way the couch was, my head was resting on the part that's more like the arm part, you know what I mean? And I literally physically felt, I was alone, and I literally physically felt like a hood came off the beginning of my face and came off. And I was like, what was that? And I had a similar thing after that too. And I literally turned around because I thought somebody was behind me. You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. That I was all alone. Well,
totally.
Whatever that means, but we're never alone. I literally felt like something had like a hood or like something was on me, and I could feel it come off. It was so like creepy,
Yeah.
weird, and like yeah, intuition, a lot of being able to see things that I wasn't seeing before. Relationships shifted really quick. Job shifted where intuition was like off the roof, and like I just knew it was like all this stuff just dropped in me where I'm like, I know this stuff now, and I didn't even know it 2 minutes ago. And so interesting, like very interesting similarities here. But Craig, tell me what you're going to say. I want to know.
I was just thinking, like, along these lines, is we all know that, you know, we create our reality, and when you experience a shift like that, it can't. This is a double negative. Can't not affect your external life. It's an. All right then. Should I say? Sorry, Sharnael. My conscious language there wasn't brilliant. but yeah, you know, when you have these sort of something unlocks in you. I was reading recently about. I'm currently reading Paul Wallace's latest book, by the way, which is really cool. And he's talking about like his experiences where he's had DNA activations. Things have happened to him in a very similar vein. And like when we have these experiences happen to us, how it just radically shifts our entire being, which shifts our entire life. Which actually, I think this ties in really, really nicely with the topic of the day, which, you know, we've advertised today is talking about 3D to 5D. I mean, I'd love to know what does that mean to you guys?
Ooh. Do you want to go first, Sharnael, and then I'll answer? Or?
Oh God, no! I wanted you to speak first.
Okay,
but
here we go.
I will tell you, you know, I'm scanning people.
Yeah.
And I can find out if you're where you're at. And most people are still in 3D, but there are people in 4D. And I've never personally found someone yet that's in 5D, but there are people already in 4D. And someone had a question or a statement here that you can't go from 3D to 5D, that you have to experience 4D first. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because I have my own thoughts, and I'm sure Craig does too. But so tell us, answer Craig.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to dip into that one.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. One that I truly enjoy, because I think part of our human journey right now is that we're sort of meant to be in the stage where we're trying to intellectualize and understand and explain away an element of energy or a stage of consciousness that is fundamentally outside of our own right now on such an extent that I would say if we were to, or if I were to kind of, you know, classify my understanding of 5D right now, it is the type of understanding that an infant gets when they look out and go, I have a hand. I realize is this my hand? This is my hand. And you don't even realize it's a hand at first, but you realize there's another part of you that maybe it's always been there, but you're now coming to the stage of maybe your conscious journey or your human development in which you realize, oh, there is a hand. So to me, I think of 5D as us becoming aware of something that has been in place, almost like infrastructural elements of human anatomy or human consciousness that we can only perceive. We can only perceive and barely understand the surface of what we define as 5D right now, because in and of itself, it is outside of our sort of range of consciousness. So what I've noticed a lot of people do is we have this need to sort of classify or to name or to add a certain type of number or to create a sort of numerically indicated value over a state of consciousness that can't really be classified that way. If I was to put a name on where I believe we are right now, if you want to fit it into that, you know, we could call it like the spiritual lexicon of the moment. It feels like we are in the fourth density, or we could even call it, and they're kind of two different things to me, but the fourth density and also fourth dimensional stage of where we start to become aware of our sort of process of reincarnation. We become aware of the non-physical realms, the astral realms. We become aware of the phenomenon of multidimensional travel, out-of-body experiences, alien, if you want to call it extraterrestrial stuff. I think when we enter what we would call fourth density, which looks like, from what I can tell, it's broken down into a series of what I would call gradated, almost like octaves, like sections as you move up through these sort of sections of consciousness. I would describe many of the people on the earth plane right now as in like the lower echelons of a fourth density frequency. And so I realize I'm going on and on about this, but how would you understand if you were in a fourth density frequency? By my understanding, the telltale signs are you are starting to become aware of non-physical energies. You're past the point in the third density life cycle where you realize that just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. That idea in and of itself is when we start to move into a fourth density frame of intellectual capacity. And so I think we're in lower octaves of fourth density, but I think that there's an element of us, a part of our identity that is in what you want to call 5D or 6D or 7D or 8D, that, you know, it's always been there. We're just now becoming aware of it. And I honestly like to poke fun and kind of have fun with the whole, like, I'm in this D, I'm in that D, I'm in 22D. A couple of weeks or months ago, I was reading something on Facebook, and this woman was like, I never get affected by entities because I do all my energy work from 22D. And I gotta be real, because I'm sitting there and I'm going like, what the hell does that even mean? You know? And so anyway, sorry, I'll go on and on about it, but I think we're in fourth density transitional stage, which honestly takes a lot of lifetimes. I think for a lot of us, there's a great misconception right now that we're like, I'm done here on Earth. I'm never coming back. That's it. I'm done. When in reality, this is what we do. We literally come here. We go to different versions of it over and over again. Might be a higher density version, might be a lower density, but this is literally what we do. And so anyway, watch out. I'll talk forever, but that's how I see it.
No, really, really enjoyed that. Don't feel like you have to be quiet. Like I say, we're interviewing you, so say everything you've got to say. You know, it's all good. And I totally agree. And one thing I love about you on social media, Mathew, is like I say, you call out the BS. You know, and
I love it.
When I say call out, I think you find it humorous, and you're just like, this is brilliant. I love it. You know,
Oh, no, it is really. I think that, like, if you want to pay attention to the sort of multidimensional ascending soul group, and I say this with love and respect, it's like, this is the greatest time to be on Earth, because we're living in a literal TV show of first time discoveries of multidimensionality. Everything from oops, I'm suddenly in a secret space program, to oops, now I'm in the Galactic Federation, to boom, now I'm a Pleiadian starseed. And here's the thing, those are all literally correct. It's all actually true. Those are all pieces of ourself. It's just really fun to watch the ways in which we as humans, and I mean me too, because you guys watch out. Next week I'll be on something really serious, and I'm like, this is how it is. And it's like, we grab onto these like stages of identity and allow them to define the human experience. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. But it's also something that I think we can't take ourselves too seriously. Or maybe I myself have realized, where I'm like, damn, I think I'm done taking myself so seriously. And like, the more I do that, the easier it gets. Because a lot of people right now are caught up in this sort of space war. Like, literally every single thing is about some element of the space war. And it's like Alliance versus Orion, and it somehow has bled its way into every facet of our life. And it's one of those things where I really enjoy just watching it and going, you know, it's both true and not true. But anyway, thanks for making that observation. I should stop talking on that one, but you get the idea.
I agree with Craig, and yeah, I always look for your comments, because it's entertaining for me to watch you be entertained by the comments. So yeah, and you've even like said that. I talked to you on the phone, I don't know, a month ago or something, regarding I just reached out because I saw some comments that you had written, and I think one of them that you had said was, this is so entertaining. You know, it's like, get the popcorn and whatever, but
Really?
making light of, not just trolls, but, these weird divisions in the community, and, that kind of stuff. And one thing that I have, I was in a dark, really weird place, and not realizing that it was like voice to God tech thing going on, which I'll talk about in a minute. But but once I was like, oh man, after like 4 or 5 clients that I had who were all telling me the same thing over and over and over again, it was the same stuff that I was hearing. I was like, oh my God, this is way bigger than me. And, I don't know. But when I actually talked to my cousin, Shelly, and she kept saying, like, stop taking everything so personal. Everyone's just playing their roles. We're all here and signed up for these roles. And, they're just playing their part for me to learn the lesson here. And, whether it's like family members or friends or a troll or whatever, the situation is, it's just like, that kind of took the charge off like immediately, because it was a good reminder for me to be like, oh yeah, I forgot, because we kind of are in a simulation of, I don't know how far deep you want to go down the rabbit hole, but
As far as you could go.
Jump down, jump in.
it kind of, it definitely like lifted something off of me to remind myself, or for me to use her to talk to me, to tell me what I already knew, or however you want to say it, of being like this role playing and these characters that we choose for these life things to get whatever we're supposed to get out of it. And speaking, either one of you got anything to say about role playing and characters in the simulation kind of thing?
Go,
Yeah.
Matthew.
Yeah, I it's funny that you even talk about this sort of character thing, and I might be speaking about it from a similar yet slightly different context, but I have noticed and observed within myself that we're at one of the stages in the human journey right now where many people are organically experiencing a switch over into the next character, the next persona stage, what we might call an identity stage, kind of like how I had a number of very just interesting kind of identity stages, musician stage. There was the mental health / weird therapist stage. Now I'm in the, whatever you want to call it, multidimensional character phase. For some people to hear the word, like, these are roles or characters. For some people that takes on almost this disingenuous tone, which I do not believe that's what it is. I think part of our human journey of being people and come into this strange planet is moving through stages of identity, very much like we move through the archetypal stages of identity. And I think a lot of us right now, especially in 2022, as we are watching the slow stranglehold of, all the powers that were or be, or however you want to define them, they're slowly kind of strangling, everyone on Earth. And we're all kind of sitting there watching it happen and, waiting for something to take place. And one of the great deceptions I think that's been placed upon us as a spiritual community is that, we've been taught to wait. We've been taught to, remain the same and don't judge and just accept everything and stay in a high vibration and, just be the change and that whole thing. And I actually believe that we're entering the stage of the journey where if we really want the things that we are waiting for many of us, it necessitates a very dramatic character change. We start to take on new elements of ourselves. And I also think that's part of what happens as we go through this awakening journey, because inevitably we start to connect with other versions of ourselves, literally other versions of you and me that exist on parallel, we could call them timelines. The secret space program timeline is a very close one. That's why a lot of people are sort of bleeding over and finding that version of ourselves. But one of the things that happens when we go through this stage in human development is that we have the ability to connect with those other selves. And so there's going to be stages of the human journey that for you and myself, our identity is going to be entirely different. By identity, I don't mean a different name and a different face, but you in the manner of service and the role that you choose to play is going to change. And so for those of you guys out there that feel yourselves kind of transitioning into new places, you're not resonating with the same old stories anymore, you're finding new people, you're starting to get drawn in different directions. A lot of people, that's because you're going to organically transition into a whole new stage. And if you're wondering, how do we actually liberate or change or bring about disclosure, or whatever the big thing is everyone's trying to create, I think it is by allowing and initiating the next phase of your human journey in what I would like to say the most powerful, the most, just the most optimal form. And for a lot of us right now, how do we, a lot of people will be wondering, how do I awaken or receive that version of myself? And there's many ways, but for me, the one thing that's kind of worked for myself and the others that we've worked with is through learning to clear the non-physical body, removing layers of emotional density, trauma density, past life density, just straight up toxicity in the body. When we do that, it helps us kind of have an organic idea of where spirit is leading us. And it's not to say spirit's leading each person into this wild, grand, next scene of the movie, but it will lead you into another stage of your identity. And so, I don't know, I probably took that question and ran in a weird direction with it, but to me, it's very organic. So
I wholeheartedly agree. I love what you said before about we're discovering what already is. Like the hand analogy was just brilliant. We're discovering what we're already capable of and who we already are. Because we are way more multidimensional than we've realized. And I think, it's where our consciousness lies, isn't it? The whole 3D, 5D thing. It's where are we functioning from? And obviously, we've all been trained to function. We need to feed our bodies. We need to look after our 3-dimensional world. But we're learning, and a lot of it is intuitive. I don't know about you guys, but I wake up with new thoughts in my head. Things I'm learning stuff in the night, wherever I'm going when I'm asleep. I don't know, but I mean, I've had people comment like, I wake up with just like crazy things in my mind, like, and I talk about them like, did you know this? Did you know that? And it's returning back to the joy for me. I believe that joy, happiness, bliss is our default state of being, and everything in these sort of lower dimensions tries to keep us in the lower energy centers, and in fear and stress and anxiety, and I think what we're doing is we're breaking out of that. And I heard intuitively once, laughter and joy will save the world. And I truly believe that as we start discovering this stuff and remembering, like, we can look at the crap going on and just be like, this is hilarious, like you do, Matthew. It really inspires me,
Cool, thanks.
And I mean, I can take myself too seriously at times, and certainly when I get sort of frustrated at political things that just are ridiculous,
It's okay, I do too all the time.
yeah. But it's time to remember to sort of detach emotionally from these things. Okay, observe them and comment whatever, but don't lose your joy over it. And I think that's a big lesson, certainly for me. And that's how I would describe this kind of ascension process. Whatever, everyone's got a different sort of lingo for it, haven't they? Whatever it is to you, this ascension, this transition, whatever, is happening globally. And yeah, there are negative agendas to try and stop it. I no doubt about that. But it's ridiculous. It's like, pouring a tiny little drop of water on a house on fire. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. We've won. It's game over, and it's quite an exciting time. And I can feel that this conversation is going to be igniting for a lot of people as well. And that's what I'm hoping to do out of this. So yeah, I'm loving it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I think for me too, just like I mentioned here, voice to God tech. And for anyone who's watching that's gone through anything crazy in the last few weeks specifically, there has been a suicide program that started in July that really, really amped up here about 2 weeks ago. And almost every single client that I've had has told me that they're hearing voices like, what's the point? I'm all alone. Why am I here? I don't have any friends. Nobody cares. Cancel clear, all of that. And it wasn't until I heard like the third or fourth person say that I realized, gosh, because 2 years ago, there was another campaign, if you want to call it that, where there were several people who were very, very, very anti the thing, and just like gung-ho about, their rights and freedom and being able to do whatever they wanted, whether it was a position with their job or whatever. And then all of a sudden, randomly, I would find out that they got the thing. And they were the ones who were like shouting from the rooftops to everybody, even influencers and high level people like with, big jobs and, advocates for natural health. And all of a sudden they just got it. And when I asked people what in the world, every single person came back with the same sentence that said, well, I was just driving down the road and all of a sudden I heard, well, it's okay, it'll be fine. Or it's fine, just go ahead and take it. And nothing's going to happen. It's fine. It's okay. And I remember that back then. And we actually did a video, a live with a few people on it. And I kind of, forgot. Sometimes I forget about, just what's really going on. And I get too self-absorbed in all the things that I'm juggling or doing and people and stuff and family and whatever. And all of a sudden I was starting to hear this a few weeks ago. And actually thought it was me. Like I got tricked, and I was having like a dark, like haven't thought about even the planet like since my 20s. And in my 20s, I actually tried a few times, which, not bragging, I'm like, that's a terrible thing. I'm being super vulnerable saying this, but it was dark. And like, I didn't reach out to people. I didn't call anyone. I didn't want to call anyone. And when I know that I'm in that place where I'm not getting out of bed, I'm not like, not reaching out, don't want to go anywhere, don't want to be with anyone, just sitting with those thoughts. It took me like an act of Congress to finally get out and like do my scheduled consultations, because I didn't want to put on this like fake, oh, everything's great whenever I was not feeling it. And I don't never want to show up like 25%. I want to be 125%, like for my people. And whether it was interviews or consultations or shows or what have you. So when I finally like forced myself to get out there, I started hearing everyone saying this. And I say this because this remembrance for me was to observe and not absorb. And I have this like picture of the sun out there shining. And, we had a few weeks of like rain or whatever, like most people. I mean, Craig is in England where it rains every freaking day. But the sun still shines even though it's cloudy. And the sun doesn't take a day off. The sun is somewhere, there might be a little cloud in the way to like filter it. But, if you go outside and you got mad at the sun, threw sticks at the sun, cussed the sun out, like whatever, the sun's just like, whatever, radiation, ain't going to change, ain't going to move. It's going to keep doing its thing, which is to shine. It does not absorb whatever we're pissed off about. It doesn't care if we're having a bad day. And you're not going to be able to do anything to change its mission. And for me, when I started hearing everybody saying that, I realized that I got to get back into my shine. I got to go back and like remember, and just talking to someone out loud actually started shifting it for me. And then recognizing, oh my God, this is a program. And then I was like, oh, and it just took off the whole personal, like, I don't know. I got back. I found myself again. And so for anyone watching that may have gone through that, please be aware that this is a hardcore campaign. I know of 3 people who committed suicide this very week. Yeah. And it is hardcore. People that I never, ever, ever would have thought were going to check out. And none of them reached out. All of these 3 people, there was like no signs. They were just totally fine. And then this happened. So I don't know if that's 3D, 4D, 5, whatever you want to call it. But speak into that observe versus absorb, and speak into if you've had any clients with this, or any of you ever experienced this, or any of you guys watching, have you guys heard of anybody or experienced this yourself in the last like September kind of time? I'd love to hear it. It started in July, but it really beefed up in this last few months or last few weeks.
Whoa. Damn. Okay. Wow. I'm really glad that you brought that in, because, and granted, we never know where any of these are going to go, but it's really funny that you would mention a form of almost like a recorded version, this astral message that plays this thing that wants you to kill yourself, and it tells you the most negative version of the thoughts possible. That is a thing that other people have come to me for quite recently. I have experienced that very frequently. It's funny that you even mentioned July. July of this year was a really, really hard month for me. Like really, 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 to the extent where I was like, whoa, is there something wrong? Is there something going on with me? And so that's a very, very interesting thing to hear that. I have identified and noticed many kind of examples of what we would call frequency interference that have existed. And it seems to show up. I'll speak from my experience and the people that I've worked with, because here's the thing, the ways in which and the conditions in which these frequencies affect us, it's a little bit different for each person, but by and large, there's main areas of the energy body that get hit with that stuff. But what I noticed for myself and the people that I have been working with that have been subjected to what I call like intrusive thoughts, thought replacement, thought insertion, which sounds like a weird woo-woo thing, but it's literally true. We can do it psychically to each other. We do it all the time. All you have to do is turn on the news and you'll get a series of thoughts inserted into your body. And so it's literally real, but it's a really good example of when they talk about reversal technology. For those of you guys that read into like all the interesting kind of blogs and terms, One of the forms of that we're constantly interacting with is the non-physical frequency. It is kind of passed or kind of carried through technological waves, things like old school 5G and like internet and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. They can actually carry thought forms and feelings and emotions, and they tend to be very dense, very weighty, very heavy. They will come with kind of physical actions and physical things, like they'll sort of nudge us to take certain actions or to do certain negative behaviors. And so, depending on where you live in the United States or other parts of the world, you may be receiving those frequencies every day, all day, or you might come to a stage in your journey where when the energy body kind of gets a little bit, we could say, worn or tired or exhausted, there's certain areas that I've observed on myself and others that tend to get weak. And so where would those areas be? Areas around the sphenoid bone right here, around your eyes and your temples, the crown chakra at the top of your head. We have some chakras that are developing, like energetic infrastructure. Some people call them causal chakras. I call them portal chakras. There's going to be many other names, but as those activate, we start to become way more sensitive and able to pick up non-physical frequencies. The wild thing is right now, just based on the toxicity that we're receiving from technology and food, and yeah, we could say pharmaceuticals if they're still in your system, it's actually kind of distorting the frequencies that are coming from these naturally activating chakras. And what happens is, if there is a dense frequency around, if there is kind of like a astral recording, which sounds cheesy but is literally real, if they are playing, it's like your body begins to tune into it, like receiving, I don't know, some of you guys might have had this experience back in the 80s or 90s when you got an old school filling in your tooth, back when it was like lead or whatever the hell that was, and you could actually receive a partial radio signal in your head. It's literally real, and it actually happens. And so when the certain kind of vibratory environment is reached within the body, you'll start to receive those recordings. And it's not like they affect everyone. Not everyone is so permeable to it, but those of us that are already on what we would call like an awakening arc or a journey of opening up this stuff, which for some people is organic, some people is purposeful, you're going to get all of it. And it's almost like, here's another weird metaphor I use, sort of like when you're in the shower and maybe the shower door or the curtain's a little bit open and you get this draft coming in and you're trying to like close it and stop that. It's like these leaks come into your energy field. And depending on what's around, you'll pick up other people's thoughts. You'll pick up this weird reversal recording. It gets really weird. There's a really interesting form of synthetic telepathy that's being created right now through the particulate matter that builds up around in a literal ring. And I was shown MRI imaging of this in the past. I wish I could find them now, but there's an actual ring that forms around the sides of your head in a circular pattern as heavy metals gather within the body. And so a lot of people theorize, myself included, that one of the directions we're going with the entrainment and the poisoning and the mass control systems is kind of creating a little bit of a remote control interface for human consciousness. And as this gets thicker, you're able to change thoughts, you're able to change urges, you're able to essentially pilot people around in really crazy ways. And so anyway, I know I'm going on a long run with this, but I think partially what you were experiencing and what myself has experienced, probably everyone here to a certain extent, is when the energy body becomes just a little bit depleted. And if you're in that awakening journey, you're going to pick that stuff up. And so anyway, I'll pause there. I know that was a lot. Feel free if there's any questions.
That's a really good point of like, just if your energy body is depleted or if you get tired, you know, I had thought maybe I was just like working too hard and like maybe needed to like pull back. But I took some time off and then I came back and it was still there. So I was like, okay, there has to be more. And I mean, I'm good, but it was just, I think, recognizing what was going on. Someone is, a lot of people posting comments here about people that they've had commit suicide. And also someone mentioned, I think Libby said something about how someone had a vision of a dandelion. Let me go back and find it. Dandelion of darkness was blown and it was almost like seeds. But TV and movies, there is implants within that, like a digital implant that is in these movies. And Bob Jones would talk about this too. But there was one movie, Squids, I think, that came out on Netflix, that
Squid
there is
Games.
a ton. What is it?
Squid Games.
Yes.
The Korean thing, yeah, it was
Oh
really
God,
cool,
there's so many digital components in that are just like that basically ignite what may have already been there or turn on something that shouldn't be turned on. And all of these, if you look at movies right now, like my husband and I haven't been forever, and we like went to go see, like, let's go to the movies finally. It's been 3 years. The choices, it was either all cartoons or horror movies. There were no other things for all September. And I just looked again, and then I think there was only one comedy, and everything else is literally horror movies. But Craig, you know, you want to jump in on any of this?
I mean, Sharnael, you and I would speak, and I told you, you know, probably maybe August time, I was having some struggles, you know, just like, with everything that was going on. I tend to lose sleep when I'm stressed or anxious about stuff. I wake up in the night and I can't get back to sleep. You know, I personally feel that when, you know, there's things going on, it's an opportunity to grow personally in yourself. And all that we're talking about is to apply kind of spiritual principles to overcome triggers, basically. So I was having like issues because lots of things were going on politically, and they were really going for Mr. President 45 and all this sort of stuff, and I was getting really sort of ready to fight, and it was just like no, 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 and I was giving this mantra, you know, in my meditation time of, you know, just peace in my heart, peace in my mind, peace in my life, peace in my world.
That's good.
And all I would just quote that, and it literally shifted my energy like in an instant, you know, just in an instant. And you know, these things just didn't bother me anymore. You just let it go, just let it go. And to me, this is the choice of personal growth. When I say personal growth, I'm talking, you know, growing in dimensionally, as you were saying at the beginning, Matthew, is realizing we have this power in ourselves to do this, and you know, we're learning. Sorry, I just got a text. We're learning how to do this. That we hold the power, not them, and they love to bring us down. They love to try and control us. But it's just really fascinating, Sharnael, that you would say that about this program that's been put out and these triggers in media. I mean, it's in music, it's in everything.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I know that I don't want to be that dad, you know, with my kids that are just like, no, you're not listening to any popular music. You know, it's really hard, but you know, how do you balance that? I mean, any advice on that?
Ooh.
You know, they're going for the kids big style in school,
I totally agree.
entertainment. You know, any thoughts on that, Matthew?
Totally. First off, I'll say a cheesy thing. I love how that little ding went off right at the right moment. I know that's just somebody's phone, but the reason why I have to address that is because that's a thing that happens in almost, oh, it sounds so crazy to say this, every single session that I do with a person or some form of an interaction. There's always what I call a confirmation from spirit that will come in the form of a phone that will go off, a door that will knock, a horn that will honk, or a dog that will bark. Some form of it, just like something will happen right when a person says a thing. And anyway, I always address it because that's how spirit communicates with me. I have come to learn, but I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I guess I'm gonna, in going into what I call or I would say the most effective solution for strengthening the energy body that I have ever found. And I see a few people in the chat who've heard this from me a million times. So you guys can just tune out for a quick second because they're going to be like, oh my God, he's going to say it again. But there's a free thing that everyone can do. And I know sometimes that's cheesy to say because it's like, I am a practitioner, you're a practitioner, we're all doing a process in this world, right? But if there's one thing that everyone can start doing that is absolutely free, that will literally change, and I mean literally absolutely guaranteed. I'm waiting for some person to prove me wrong. I pray one day someone will come through. But if you start doing qigong every day, I promise you, the level to which you feel energy, the level to which you feel assaulted by energy, the level to which you receive those crazy thought forms that try to get you to kill yourself, or when you're around other people and suddenly you feel this crazy weird feeling in your body and you don't know how to act, I guarantee you that will literally change. It is I think, one of the most powerful forms of non-physical technology available to us on the earth. And yes, there's many other forms, lots of martial arts, and there's yoga. There's many ways to alter the subtle energy around the body. But if there was one thing that I ever did in this life that actually, I think, helped me go from being a victim of all sorts of things, because I mean, I've had everything from the literal physical implant that is still in my body right now, to the energetic version, to the insertion of thoughts, to literal beings that I think interacted with me for most of my early life that just tore me apart. For me, those things ended when I started doing Qigong every day. It became a part of my life. And it was like, suddenly I realized, like, whoa, I could deflect things, or it's like I wasn't affected. I wasn't torn up by people. And thank you for that question. There's the way that I learned Qigong, which for some people is going to be like, what? I have never been to a class. I never went to some Qigong master. I literally opened up YouTube and I found a person and I was like, that guy's moving in a way. Okay, I think I can do that one. I like his vibe. And I would just sit there in my room and just copy it, which is honestly, if you want to get technical, that's literally how I started doing energy work, from an out-of-body experience that I had with a group of extraterrestrials. I literally mimicked what happened in that, and boom, suddenly that was a practice that I was doing. So anyway, not to go on and on, but you guys do Qigong, and it will literally change your ability to feel this stuff. So
if you can please post a couple, whoever that guy is or whoever, after I would like in the comments.
Oh, totally. I could go back and look for it. I also have a couple videos on my YouTube channel. I think they're unlisted right now because they were for our training group, but I actually have a Qigong routine that I do pretty much. I was doing it before this show, actually. And I will make it public so people can do it as well. But yeah, we can post those. Oh, yeah, totally.
Awesome. We just have like a couple minutes left. And can you do like one read?
Totally.
Just for kicks and giggles.
Yeah. Who shall we do a reading for? We can do a collective reading. We can do one for both of you guys. What do you feel?
Whatever you're supposed to do.
Okay.
By the way, guys, I'm going to mention it earlier, but for those who got on late, we're going to have him live for our members only. So if any of you who are on here are members, definitely stay tuned. We're going to put some details up because we're going to do a whole show just with personal readings. I have my cards and, prophetic stuff. Craig is very prophetic and intuitive, and Matthew's going to join us. And I have a couple other people that are secret surprises that are going to join us too for some stuff coming up. So if you're not members, jump on and get on to be members. There's some really cool content we're going to be adding here, and a teaching about karma. And like I said, just a lot of cool things coming up with that. So definitely get on board. But yeah, whatever you think, Matthew.
Totally. Who would like to go first? We'll do one for each of you guys since you're here right in front of me. Who shall it be first?
Be a collective, because someone is putting on here collective. But go ahead.
Collective. Well, okay. Do you guys want to do a collective reading first? Okay, we're going to do a reading for the collective energy. I have a very short disclaimer that I use when I do readings online. Here we go. Every single intuitive, for those of you guys that are watching, is viewing your energy field through a little keyhole. It's like a little opening in the door through which we look at what's going on with you. The reality is you know the truth. And because we do this on social media, it's like gathering a big bucket of stuff all together. And, within that bucket, there could be some very pertinent things and also some general things that you might throw away. So I say take everything with a grain of salt. And because we're doing the collective one, everyone just take a deep breath in. I know there's a 12-second delay or something between when you hear me and when it happens, but we'll take a breath in. As we just honor each and every one of you alongside us in this human journey, we seek knowledge and understanding, activation for the collective road ahead. And we're just looking for a symbol, anything that the people that are watching can be made aware of for the coming future. Okay, here we go. And for those who are interested, I practice a modality known as multidimensional tarot. Not that you can reinvent tarot, but we look at it through a slightly more anatomical perspective and understanding areas of interest or energy blockage. And so let's do it for the collective. And the fun part is you're going to see it as I see it. I don't do front loading on cards, so we're going to see it together at the same time. For the collective, what do we need to know? Boom. We got a 9 of Pentacles, everybody. I hope you can see it on your screen there. Nine of Pentacles, if we're looking at this from a collective perspective, and for those that can see, you'll notice it's this woman and she's got a beautiful bird and everything looks really good. And there's this beautiful garden and whoa, there's a big gate there. Huh. Interesting. There's a big gate. What's it separating her from? Which is a really good question. When the Nine of Pentacles shows up in your life, for everyone that is here, you're usually at a stage in which you've been able to accumulate, to amass, to put things together, to come to a stage of the human journey in which there is a comfortability, there's an accomplishment. Things usually smell good, feel good, look good when you have a Nine of Pentacles in your life. We could call this a place of comfortability in which we will unknowingly give up, check this out, certain freedoms. We will unknowingly give up or take upon ourselves certain restrictions. Now, if I were to shove this in front of the screen, it'd just get blurry, but some people can look at it and notice that in most of the Nine of Pentacles cards, depending on what tarot deck you have, the people that are in it are going to be restrained or contained. And so as from a thematic perspective, or maybe a thematic collective perspective, if you're in a Nine of Pentacles stage, you're honestly usually in a stage where you're doing pretty good, but you're not complete. That's why it's a 9. So there's certain steps that we'll need to take as a soul group, as individuals. And really what it's about is putting more skin in the game, breaking through certain barriers, leaving behind the things that have kept us comfortable and safe, and moving through areas that we've never been through before. And so if I were to get this card and I was saying, Spirit, what are you calling me to do in my life right now? It is to break through that beautiful golden cage in front of you, break through all the safety, break through the reliability, and bring yourself into a stage or a chapter of your life in which you're really calling the shots and you're letting certain things go. All the things that we've used to define us with the Nine of Pentacles can be let go of. But it sort of, well, for some people, it requires you to sacrifice, check this out, what you are right now for what you could become. And so anyway, watch out. I'll go on and on just one card, but it's a good thing to have, you know, in general.
Super cool. Any comments, Craig?
I mean, that was for the collective, right?
Well, here's the thing. I say this on every tarot live stream I do. You'll hear a card and you'll be like, that's for everyone. But for some people, you'll hear it and you'll think, wait, is it about this thing in my life? It couldn't be. That's about the collective, but it is actually. Right. That's the way that tarot works. And that's also multidimensional tarot, because it sort of works through many different versions, situations, relationships. And so it's both collective and individual.
Awesome.
Cool. I'm just wondering if there's any what do you call it? Some of my former church friends who would want a tarot reading.
Okay, I have something to say about that. Okay. John Paul Jackson, who I worked with for years, Streams Ministries, we had a conversation about it because I would get like a fortune cookie or whatever, and he, people would freak out that I read my fortune or something. And John Paul, who, some of you who are watching know John Paul, he would say, when you get to a certain point of authority, everything bows down to God, and that God uses all tools to speak to whoever is, when you get to a certain frequency, everything must submit to God, including tarot, including billboards, music, fortune cookies, whatever. Like because you'll be so tuned in that anything you look at will be like the answer to the question you were just thinking.
Like a message in it, yeah.
On the TV and a commercial comes on and a guy says a sentence of exactly what you were about to, like what you were thinking in your mind, and it's resolved and you have that. So, people can get all religious and cuckoo and be upset about stuff, or you don't have to. You can just take it as a message. So that's
indeed.
Thank you for addressing the religious ideas about things like tarot. I'm a person who grew up in what I call a religiously addicted family, Reformed Presbyterianism. It's a joyful and wonderful form of, Christianity. Not really, but anyway, I kind of grew up in that environment, and I think early on in my life was where I realized that there were some sort of ability or this empathic thing that I have, and we were taught that was of the devil. We were taught that anything like that, divination is wrong. You can't do that. That's a sin. And so depending on where you stand in that, I think that we're at the stage of the human journey where for many of us who come into life with that understanding of the higher the higher spiritual authority in whatever form we choose to define it. Part of our understanding of that is realizing that they gave us gifts and many tools and many ways to understand and kind of discern and work with spirit. And I think one of the best things we can do, even if you're a dogmatic Christian, is learn to disarm the control structures and learn where these very sacred texts were literally twisted and changed. And a lot of it is about taking away power that is literally your own, keeping you small and weak and just a slave to some sort of higher power energy. And when I look at, the basis of what a lot of people call like traditional Christianity or just like religion in a traditional earth-based form right now, it is turned into such a shocking power struggle that it's like, I look at it now and I'm like, this is nothing like what it was actually in those old days when many of those things were created or written, you know what I mean? It's become very, very distorted. And so I really honor those that are stuck in that paradigm, but I also say you're stuck in the paradigm. Move on. There's a whole other, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, watch out. I'll go on. Go ahead.
God is way bigger. And I mean, even the Levites had dice that they, I forget what
Levites, totally.
They rolled the dice, and they'd be like, what's it gonna be? I'm just making things up, like making it whatever. But we have like 4 minutes left, and I want to make sure people know.
Oh yeah, reading. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to make sure how people, where people can find you, and all of that too. So, if you want to, do you want to do this live, whatever you're doing, or do you want to where are we going here, Craig?
Oh, I was going to pull another card for somebody really quick, but we can also pause that if you.
Do one more card for someone, and then I want to get your website or wherever people can find you, Facebook, all that stuff, and we'll carry.
What are you doing for you, Sharnael?
Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I just felt like Craig. I just feel Craig. Honestly, I just feel you. I don't know why. Every time I see you on here, I'm like, dude, I don't know. There's like a warrior archetype, lots of past lives. Anyway, and so take it with a grain of salt. It gets very diluted when we do it on social media, but every now and then, amazing things happen. I know we're running out of time. For those of you assisting Craig on the earth plane, we're just looking for a very simple sign of guidance or just strengthening or just anything that needs to be made aware of. Ooh, sometimes it's dangerous to do that question. And here we go. Boom. Whoa, nice. Craig, you have received the Knight of Wands. This is actually a really good thing to get right now. The Knight of Wands is what we call masculinated fire. It's fire that needs to burn, fire that needs to embrace its passions. If you're a Knight of Wands individual and someone can dangle a carrot in front of you, it doesn't matter if you never get the carrot. It's like your fire will literally burn forever. And so if you have this and you're looking for guidance, Spirit is telling you to embrace your fire, check this out, to become willful, which for some people is a scary word. We're like, well, what do you mean willful? Well, the Knight of Wands in his proper vibration is willful from the perspective that he's got authorization to look down the road and say, there's a raging fire over there, and your job is to go straight for it. Straight toward it. You go to the biggest explosion, the biggest thing, the most interesting light. That's what he's meant to do. And so embrace it. And just understand, sorry to go on and on, but if you don't use the fire that you're granted with this type of energy through your passions or your obsessions, it'll give you something to be angry about. It's like use me or I will use you, but not in a catastrophic way. Anyway. So
Wow.
That's like, that's hit the target. That is
nice.
Fire.
Yeah.
Warrior, the fire. That is like too much.
Nice.
Not too much. It's perfect.
You said it before you pulled the card as well. So that was
Oh,
amazing.
that's cool. Whoa, rat. Oh, I did. Oh, whoa.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll take one. I'll do it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, you are in a band. I saw Tyler there on the screen. You are a musician, right? Do you play drums?
Indeed, yes.
I probably heard that on another live stream, but it's like I could see you with the multilateral brain movement thing going on. It's brilliant.
Yes. Tyler and I have been talking recently. He's also a musician. We'll talk about that another time, but yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, Greg has a band, and then he's also now got just asked to go on tour with another band too. I don't know if you want to say that out loud or just I've just and a big opportunity's just opened up for me to play for a band, and they want me to play in Europe. So
yeah.
Who are
So
they? Tell us.
it's a band called 10. They're like a melodic rock band from like the 90s. They're still going. And this other band called Metallica asked me as well, but I didn't have time for them. That was a joke.
You never know.
But yeah, but that, like I say, what you pulled on that card was quite amazing, really.
Oh, rad.
That's awesome.
Huh. Thank you. I want to hear more about your music. I mean that very sincerely. As a person who had a previous timeline where that's all I did in this life, it's good.
Me too.
Yeah. Oh, you did what? Okay. Sorry. I know we're running out of time. Do we have time to do a card for you? What do you think?
One more.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for Sharnael, for those of you assisting Sharnael on the Earth plane, we're just looking for just anything important, anything that needs to be known. All those of you guiding her human experience. Oh, you got a lot of thought forms going on, Sharnael. You can't see it now, but when I'm doing readings for people and I'm shuffling the cards, there's a thing that happens right before I pull the card and everything gets stuck together. So just from a very, loving perspective, that usually means that we have a lot of unspoken or we could say unverbalized thoughts that will need to be expressed. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It just means that there's a lot of mental activity. And so take it with a grain of salt. You probably have some really good ideas that you haven't fully voiced. That's just what I think. But anyway, here we go. For those of you assisting, we're just we'll see it together. Who knows? 3, 2, 1, boom. Oh man, you got one of my favorite people, one of the most misunderstood characters in the world of tarot. You got a 7 of Swords. Oh man, my wife gets this all the time. It is a brilliant card, but here's the thing. A lot of people see it and they judge it by its appearance and they're like, what? You got this guy with a cloak on and he's sneaking around with all these swords. What does this mean? It's funny that I just said you had thoughts or ideas that haven't been vocalized to the world, because the 7 of Swords will come out at a time in which you might be on a little bit of a secret mission. You might have some certain things that you've been keeping back that you haven't fully talked about. And usually when it comes to swords, it's not things that we use physically in this world. It's ideas, it's energy, it's words that have not been yet spoken, things that you're going to communicate to the world. And 7 of Swords will come around to say that you're holding on to that energy. It's neither bad nor good, although sometimes it can be negative depending on the context of the question. But 7 of Swords says that there's something that you're holding behind your cloak back there. And pretty soon, if you really want to use all that's available to you, 7 of Swords says you must let it out. In fact, you shouldn't let it. It's not that you must let it out. It's that you have to let it out in full view of everyone else. So that would almost be like you doing a live or a video like this and saying, hey guys, I'm going to tell you a bunch of things that I haven't really told anyone yet. That would be a thing you would do with a 7 of Swords. You'd be like, guess what? Here's the real me. And you pull out this sword. And anyway, it could be good, but it's also frightening for some people, because there's things we hold with 7 of Swords that you will be like, oh, I shouldn't talk about that thing. I don't know, because you won't know how people will judge it. So you've been hiding it your whole life. But anyway, so there we go. I hope that helps.
Bravo.
Here, and she knows that you are. I had a thing happen last week that I'm just gonna say it. I'll say this. One of the things I'm gonna say is I was in the Jeep and I went and got my Jeep cleaned and washed and stuff, and I was going through the car wash, and then you get at the end, and I was on the phone with Anna, Candace's daughter, and I was telling her some really deep stuff that like I haven't talked about, and like kind of very vulnerable stuff that I just hadn't said out loud, literally what you're saying. And anyway, I was just talking, and then they get to that point where like, okay, get out of the Jeep, we need to vacuum now, and you can go over there and we'll call you when it's ready. So I turn off Bluetooth, and they told me leave the car on. So I left the car on. I like go over and I'm sitting, waiting. I'm still on the phone chatting about all this like really, really deep private stuff. And when they're finished, I go back over there and the guy's like, okay, we're ready. And I go over there and I realize the freaking Bluetooth was still on. And the guy's vacuuming heard everything I said. I mean, like all of it. I couldn't like call somebody. And my lesson to myself was it's okay to talk about it, because they didn't like freak out or anything. And number 2, everyone's listening, whether you're in front of someone or not, just to be on the get-go, like what, because energy is energy. So if there's a person you need to talk to and you're not going to talk to them in person, you can still do it energetically, and they're going to hear it. If they're going to feel it, know it, feel, anyway, that was just a little like lesson for me and funny, but yes. Okay. Candace Ann is on here. She's rocking it. Oh my God. Check her out. Okay. So tell us, where can you guys can all get a reading too?
Oh, you certainly can. That's literally all I do.
Find Mathew. Definitely find Mathew. And where can we find you? So
yes. So all I do, literally, my literal mission on Earth right now is doing psychic readings and energy clearing. You can find me and my wife Honora, who does very similar work, at rememberyourmission.com. And we actually have a training program that's starting. We have classes that are starting. Like everyone right now, we're offering the next installment of the various forms of just education and energy and healing that we do. And we are literally at the stage where we're starting a whole new cycle. So we got classes started in November. Yes, I'm doing the tarot class. And so I'm at the stage of the journey where everything we do, we're teaching other people to do. And so you guys can find me at rememberyourmission.com and also on YouTube at the School of Multidimensional Intuition, where you can catch our videos and classes that we've done for free. And so there we go.
Yes, and definitely be on the lookout, because we're having just one whole hour of Mathew and Craig and I, and we're all going to be doing.
Sounds really fun.
Readings with just our members. So be on the lookout, because hit the notifications so you get for YouTube, go to YouTube and subscribe, hit notifications. That way when we do announce the details, what's going on, if that's something that you guys are interested in. And we have, like I said, a couple other people that we already have lined up that I'm not going to shout out yet, but you guys are going to be super excited about this. So Craig, where can we find you? And then we'll wrap up here. And just thanks for everybody who's here. But Craig, where can we find you?
The band is called Nth Ascension. That's NTH Ascension. You can find us online on Facebook. I'm on Facebook as well. If people want to connect, I'm miles away from the 5,000 limit, so it's all good. And we also, my wife and I, run a crystal shop, a UK-based crystal shop, crystalfalls.co.uk. I say we run it. My wife runs it, really. I set it up and she runs it brilliantly. So yeah, find us there and come and say hello.
Awesome. And definitely go to swiftfire.org, you guys. I do biofeedback. I do soul audits. My books are there. My cards, my card deck is there. Lots of great teachings on muscle testing, liver cleanses, prophetic stuff and teaching. So definitely jump on there. And I mean, you guys are just so great. I love all you guys who are here with me today. It was such a fun time to be live with everybody. And Mathew, oh my God, what can I say? You are just you're gold. I mean,
thanks for having me. I mean it.
In our lives, and just someone that that keeps us mentally stable at times, and
it also keeps me mentally stable. So thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys make sure and connect with him. Find him on Facebook. Jump in on whatever he's doing, because you can
read it.
Very intuitive, extremely, and just it matters to me about like heart. And like lots of people can be gifted, but if you don't have the pure heart, then it's like, why? So, Mathew is all love, and definitely, what he's doing is for service, for love, and to help people. He truly has this pure intention to help people, see people be better. And that's what I just admire about you most, Mathew. And I appreciate your service to the world so much. And just so grateful for you. And Greg too, you're my brother. I love you so much. And anyway, so have a great day, guys. Stay tuned, hit that notification, sign up to be a member while you can. And I will be giving the details here in the next few days on dates for all these fun things. So you guys have a good one. Talk to you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.